So yesterday I showed you that we had all this taken down, but some residue glue left over, and what the game plan was with that was to just take some solvent to it, which I'm going to try that and see if it's going to relieve whatever glue is balled up here. I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is yet, but I was going to wipe it down quick and see if that was going to cure it, because usually it does. If not, I'm planning on 800 gritting this and 1000 grit before I buff it anyway, so it will take that stuff off. As you can see, this side is all completely done too, and so this side is good to go, and we are ready to start wet sanding and buffing this portion of it. But I'm gonna stop and remove the seats, remove the back drape, remove the skanky stuff over there, because I need that to go to my upholstery guy. The boat is going to have to go to the other shop to get a more responsible bid, because it was a little high. Yeah, like thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars high. So, and then all this stuff up here too. I mean, I'm going to have to probably use the eraser wheel to get this stuff off too. This stuff is fried right on there. I'll try a heat gun, or maybe just try, being in a nice warm sun. That the sun is your friend whenever you're trying to take this stuff apart. Just saying. But they got all these little giggity goos that got to come out of here. These things, they got nuts on the backside. They're a real pain. The bow light, steering column, cutting the wiring harness loose from the steering thing over there. You can see, if you look through that little hole right there, you can see that they attached the red, black, white wire harness for the lights, because that's the only accessory this boat has. Well, it does have, looks like a cell phone charger thing or something there, ports for that. So that being said, this is going to go back to the bare bones of what it once was. If anything, we've discussed talking about possibly adding a speedo to this and or tachometer, but that's still on the fence. The speedometer, yeah, that'd make a whole bunch of sense, but where do you put it? Do you split it up and put like a tack here, speedo over there, or what, tack and speedo over there? Leave this for potential optional things down the road, which I don't believe that Tony wanted to do anything as far as amenities. I do think that the tack and speedometer, vintage tack and speedometer, would be kind of neat. As long as we got stuff that works, that's in great shape. No point in doing all this work and making this thing gorgeous and then putting crappy gauges in it. So that's the game plan. Don't want to dwell on this. 3 minutes is plenty. Yesterday was really a long video, and those who made it through it, God bless you. Sorry, there's a lot of rambling going on there. I'm not going to do that anymore. So here's a point of interest. Okay, after I took this off and then got almost all the caulk off of here, some more to get off there, but I opened this up, and I was really worried about this stuff because it felt so hard. And I think if it got really, really warm, a guy could take this out and either split the two halves and send one half to the shop to get redone, or, which would be legitimately the cheapest way to do it, and haul it to the cities in a flatbed, which I've done that before. I've hauled boat tops before. Usually quite big boat tops, like them ones. So that's an option, but splitting the two halves is really not something I really want to do. The shop said, well, geez, man, we really got to get rid of that rub rail. That is just a bite me in the ass kind of thing. And I wholeheartedly agree with them. But I don't want to ruin this twin white striped coolness, which you won't ever find again. So If I can get this taken off without destroying it or damaging it very, very, very carefully, old rubberized things, old, then great. Then we can take, well, however this is fastened on here, which I'm thinking it's probably just screwed through the bottom half of the boat. And hopefully, and I've got to look yet, but hopefully it's been fiberglassed on the inside, which is a real common thing that they did. And the rub rail was just more of an aesthetics thing that they did. Just a rub rail instead of a secure piece to hold the boat together. Now, rub rails, as you'll know, you don't come all in one piece, so there's always a separation line, like right there. So if you take them off, don't be upset if they're not all in one piece. Usually it's a front half and a back half, as we can see right here. You know, they just took a piece of stock and bent it around the nose and started screwing it on, and however it landed, and then took another straight run, ran it down here, and it ended here. And once they got it bent where they wanted to, they just chopped the end off, however that is. So they just came in straight sticks and they bent them and however they needed them, and so they had tools for that sort of thing, you know, at the boat shop. So let's see what else. Oh, I was going to cover what I unearthed on the seats quick. That screw right there really isn't doing a whole lot, and there's one up there in the front that's not really doing a whole lot, and there's two back here that are extremely rusty, and I hope I can get them out of here. Yeah, so that's what the seats are coming out next. I already took this stuff out. Let's see if I can use my phone to look up here. You know, maybe I'll have to check my phone later to see what I saw, because I can't see what I saw, if that makes any sense. So, pulled all the plugs out, no water came out, so I'm pretty happy about that. There's 3 different plugs in this, center core and the two outer sections out in here. So I was really happy that that didn't happen. Last thing is, and it's a good thing that I talked Tony into doing this anyway, because of the power we're going to throw at this thing, but this transom is getting soft. It's got some bad spots, like if you can see there. Don't mind my bloody finger. This damn boat got me. And there's some soft spots, and the plywood is getting kind of punky here. So that's not good, but it's still really solid. So, and it's super thick, and this inside piece is super strong. But that does explain why we're getting some cracking here from excessive trim and trying to make the boat go as fast as humanly possible. So we're going to replace this plug too. This threaded plug, you can buy these aftermarket. They still sell these. Basically half of this threads into the other half. There's, you can, I don't know if you can see the threads at my fingernail there. Maybe. Anyway, so you put this half in first, and then you screw this part into it, and you carefully tighten the two together, and a little bit of caulk on there too. But this is all busted off, so that's got to be replaced. And I am going to make a special plate for this, because what I have around here isn't going to be long enough to cover the old boo-boos. Because that hole right there doesn't make any sense to me at all, for the way the motor was on here. It just doesn't compute. So, not sure what's going on with that. Anyway, so, yeah, those are what the things are going. Oh, yeah, that's kind of nasty. So, that got tore out too. I should be done with this here in not too short of time, and have the seats out of it, and be taking the steering out of it, and then I'm going to decide if the rubber rail's coming off or not. If it is, well, it is. Which would be really a handy thing, because the shop wanted me to try at all possible costs to get rid of this, because this is just too much potential for it to bridge. It's just going to be a pain in the ass. So anyway, Oh yeah, those goddamn things. Those are the ugliest rail pieces I've ever seen in my life. No ingenuity there. Conduit of squish some aluminum conduit and call it a handle. Yeah, sure. Okay, here we go. So a couple quick points of interest I want to mention here because this has happened. These are sheetrock screws. Okay, they're great for putting sheetrock on. They're rusty and crusty. By the way, most of these were pretty much just for show. This guy and one like him was the only thing holding the driver's seat to the floor of the boat. Yeah. These snap off if you look at them sideways, so they really don't have any strength, and it's not what you should be using to mount a seat. Just what I'm saying here. The other thing, a common mistake a lot of boaters make is, another thing is too, I've seen these go right straight through the floor, through the hull, and screw a boat right to the boat bunks. I'm not kidding you. It's happened. I've had to take seats out of boats and get them unscrewed from bunks. And of course, it left a whole bunch of holes. Actually, I have a boat out back, a Chrysler Conqueror, they just ran the screws through the floor, bottom of the boat, and went underneath of the grinder and cut them off. Cannot believe it. I might leak a little. But, yeah, I could probably go out and show you that. Stupidity. But this is really cool because this shows the footprint of how the seat got put in here. Now, I'm not going to diss Tony's dad. You know, he wanted new seats and he put them in, and shade tree mechanic, you know, you know, just new seats are new seats. Probably was tickled to death to have something that didn't poke his butt. But anyway, I don't know if you can see this, but he followed the side of the boat. That's not what you're supposed to do. Figure out the center line of the boat, or center your seat so you're straight behind the steering wheel for like the driver's seat, and then just make the passenger seat the same. And then your walkway will be the same. These taper inward on this application. Second thing is, if you're going to go do all this sort of stuff, now this is in the fall of the year, so a lot of the flying insects that do stinging things have gone away, and you only have box elder bugs to deal with, and the occasional wasp, which if you irritate them, you have to get a little gum out and carb cleaner and give them a little bubble bath because they don't like that. Just saying. And how do I know? Yeah. So we got met with some stinging things, and Tony, you're not paying me enough. I have a welt couple. So that, I don't know why these damn things love boats, but they just absolutely love boats and boat seats and outboard hoods, and yeah. So that's enough of that. So now we're going to take this seat out, and then the seats will be removed, and we're going to work on this side rail piece, which there will be swearing and cursing and cussing and bad words, and so we're not going to film that. Because all those screws, I'm sure on the backside are rusted, and or the nuts, or however they're fastened, and the wood is probably not so good. And my guess is every single one of them are going to spin, and that's going to suck for me because it just put my workload through the roof on having to do something with this interior. And we're going to have a conversation too about whether we're going to make new boards and recover these, or try to make do, because costs are going through the roof with the gel coat work. And I kind of figured it would, because that work is not cheap. It is hard work. It is time consuming, and labor is labor is labor. But to have as much an old boat as what you can pay for a brand new one is kind of stupid. So, oh yeah, we're going to take this off too. This is just pressed on all the way around. It just, and then we'll put that away for another day. Steering column, I'm going to start on that because I want to get that lubed up, and I'm going to come back to that because I want to show you guys a little hot tip. Quick point of interest that I wanted to show. It's got a whole bunch of goop on it. Out there. Okay. See these two rivets right here? Okay, one is barely through the material, and this one sticks way through, and then this one sticks way through, and then you got one barely through up there and another one sticking way through, and as you go along all the way up here, you'll see some that are barely through and some that are way through. Okay, so the good news here is that the rub rail is put on independently from the deck of the boat. So if you drill out all the rivets on the rub rail, the deck, the upper half deck of the boat, that part and the hull are separate entities. Okay, this is something that both Tony and I was worried about, and he just brought it up. And there's a classic example. You see this one here is barely through. Come on, hand. Okay, that one's barely through, and the one next to it is all the way through. Okay, that one is holding the two halves of the boat together. This one is for the rub rail. So that's huge news on being able to take the rub rail off. But a majority of the bolt manufacturers, they fiberglass the two halves together. They put the two halves on, and then they would do an overlay of fiberglass over there because it gave the boats a ridiculous amount of strength. And that was very common with Span America and several other boats. But if you ever have to split the two halves, it sucks because you got to cut all that fiberglass. And I just hate having to do that because you got to get up under here and under the gunnels, and to do that, and you got to have a really small die grinder with a cutoff wheel, and that job just blows. This is a lot easier if you were to split the two halves, but we're not doing that. We're just going to take the rub rail off so the guys can do their gel coat magic and go from there. Okay. Yeah, well, so trudging right along, had one casualty. Windshield bracket thing broke off. Little welding, little derusting, little welding, little heat. I can save it. I've saved worse. Believe me, I've saved worse. I might even have one of those. I'm not sure, but okay, so seats are gone. Steering is finally gone, and that was a real treat because it's a plastic steering wheel. That guy. And it's been on there since 76, and no one's attempted to take it off. And you got to be so careful with those things. Hot tip of the day. Take an impact wrench to take the nut off. Put the nut back on as far as you can. Take a, what's that tool called? Air chisel with a pin punch head on it, or a flat head on it that fits inside the nut but not damaging the threads. And then get pound screwdrivers behind the structural areas there. I don't know if you can see where my finger's pointing. Put screwdrivers where they all meet, not that part. Where they meet together, that's the strongest part, and just tap those in so you're putting kind of back pressure on it. And then take your that tool I just said, that thing, and get it on there and just kind of hit it. Just, don't have to go ape shit on it, but just hit it a little bit and it'll pop it right loose. I have struggled with these goddamn things. I don't know how many steering wheels I've broken in my lifetime until I finally figured out a trick. Nobody told me what to do, so this thing is starting to look really naked. I was really shocked at how good and not rusted all the bolts are that go in to hold that on. I lubed them all up with some PB Blaster, and if I'd had more liquid wrench, I'd rather use that because it works 100 times better than PB Blaster. That stuff has just never impressed me, ever. Just doesn't get her done. Not like PB Blaster, but my son's got some stuff. Man, I tell you what, It's called torch in a can, and it ain't lying. Oh my God. I've frozen up stuck carburetor uh, adjustment screws with it. I've never seen anything go through that stuff. Now, these suck. Underneath here, obviously you've got a pocket here, but underneath here is even another pocket around the pocket, so you barely can get out the nuts. And then there's a structural support beam over the top, so how they even put this together was just nuts. And so if it's two guys, yeah, they'd probably be able to get this out relatively easy, but getting a socket on the backside, wrench maybe, socket, not so much. So it was a two-man operation to put these goddamnable things on here. Now I'm going to use the vice grips and kind of wedge it in there and come to the outside and take my screw gun, and I got to go one at a time. Take this one off, let it fall to the ground, put vice grips on it, do the same thing here. So we had to do that 8 times. Now, as I pointed out in an earlier video, that this rub rail, I think this material is going to work. I don't think it's going to break. Oops, sorry, I don't think it's going to break. Then I took some off. I pulled this side out and then I put it back in, and it does seem to be pliable. So another hot tip of the day: if you take one of these out and you're going to put one of these back in, you got 2 choices. You either go little by little with some gloves on, like welding gloves, and very thick gloves that don't have heat issues. You use a heat gun and you warm it and stretch it and warm it and stretch it. Okay, because this stuff, when I pulled out of here, it's going to shrink like you wouldn't believe. I've been through so many boat restorations with a rub rail. Took it out and the thing was like 2 feet short, and we put it all back in, and then we had to tear it all back out because we figured out we had to stretch it. Then we ended up, and you ain't gonna believe this, with actually about 6 inches more than, or 4 inches more than what we started with. And we're still scratching our head. I actually had help on that job, and the owner was helping me, and we're both sitting there going like, really? I'm just dying to get back to this and get these sides sanded and get after this, but I have to take the racer wheel, and this all has to come off yet. This is like a wood grain dash concept. We're going to change this a little bit. I'm talking to Tony about that, and I think we're going to make this fatter, so it would encompass whatever gauges we got going to go in here. So I do have some material, so we're going to make this fatter, so it's like that side. Instead of this side skinny and that side fat, we're going to make them both the same. Now, what's really going to be cool is the true color of this boat is going to be underneath this vinyl. So that's going to be neat to see, and I'll get back to that in a little bit. Bow light's gone. Pretty much there's not much left. I'm going to take these side pieces off. Where's my finger? There it is. Take these side pieces off. I'm going to pull this bottom piece that runs all the way around here, this trim piece. I'll pop that off. I'm going to do these, and that's pretty much the inside of the boat is handled. Then it's just the outside of the boat. This piece, we decided it's coming off because we're going to pull a rub rail. And once we found out that the upper deck is bonded through pop rivets, and this is put on secondary. At least that's what I'm seeing, and that's not an uncommon thing. And you can take and put some, if you're concerned about it when you're transporting or whatever, like in our situation, we got to go down highways and whatever, you can put some additional bolts in it in the front and the side and so on there, you know, through some, just drill some holes and put some screws to it. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with how this is going so far. So last we left off, and my camera is losing its shit. Wow, that's crazy. Anyway, last we left off, we had a few things left to take off. As you can see, I've started to pull this, but boy, when it cooled off, it was easy pulling. When it was warm, when it cooled off, this stuff turned into concrete. And that's the problem. This stuff gets old, it gets brittle, it gets just almost impossible to handle. And so what's going to have to happen is either it goes back out in the nice 80-degree sunshine and it comes off real nice and easy, or it's heat it with a heat gun and just kind of work it along. Just heat it and work it and heat it and work it. It takes about 2 hours. It can take up to 2 hours to take a rubber rail off a boat without wrecking it. The rubber insert. Sometimes you get lucky and you just rip right through it and it just goes like a dream. Then underneath this, so I'm going to show this, you see there's a rivet there. So you're going to run into rivets on this metal piece off and on throughout the whole thing, and you got to drill the head off every single one of those rivets, and then this piece will pop off of here, okay, the inner rubber rail piece. So that's fun. Man, this boat is naked as a 70s Playboy model. The only thing left is a carpet. So I got to get up here. Got to take the eraser wheel to this stuff now and remove all this dashboard crap. I have some new material I'm going to use. I'm going to make this the same size as that. So that's going to look nice. The boards for that sideboard thing, the wood for that, ooh, almost fell on my ass. That's all here, but some of it is good towards the back. Well, one of them is bad in the back, and both of them are bad in the front. The bolts to hold them on, these guys. The wood is just rotten, or the bolt rusted away. So that brings a whole new set of problems, and I'm gonna have to talk to the customer and see what he wants to do. Maybe Tony will just say replace the wood, and then I will remove 8,000 staples and get the wood as use the wood as a template and go cut brand new ones and put a coat of primer on it to seal the wood. And I got some really great paint. It's actually an oil-based stuff I'm using is off the shelf at Menards, oil-based oh man, I can't think of it right now. Long day. Why does Napa come into my mind? That's the wrong stuff. It'll come to me later when I least expect it. So anyway, that's the general update of the boat and the condition that we're at. The sides, I didn't get to wet sanding the sides yet and doing all that, but I will. Well, I don't know if I'm going to start that in here or not. I've got enough to do to finish up the day, just getting this done and working with this rubber rail. So that's going to be a priority, because this boat needs to go to another shop so they can physically see it, because the original bid to do the blue metal flake only was so ridiculously high, no one would pay it. So I basically told them I get it, you're bidding it out your ass, but this is just nah. There's not that much material here, you know. It's not that big. It's a 14-foot boat. So you could buy 10 of them for 10 of these boats for what they wanted to do that work. So that's just utterly effing ridiculous. You know, that really did shine up. Some of it did. It's such a pretty color. Too bad we can't save it. It's so far gone. Some of this is so far gone, it's just cooked. And that's the way it goes. I mean, that's really bad along here. The deck of the boat is just completely gone. But I would imagine when they saw this boat back in the winter of '76, it was pretty appealing. So anyway, yeah, some of the color here is just crazy. Metal flake, man. It's really cool. This, I think if this was sanded, I think you could just take and clear right over the top of it, because the color is not dead. The color is good. It's just the gel coat is dead. So if you sand the gel coat, you can put the blue tinted clear over the top of this, or you can just use clear wherever you end your metal flake. Like if you ended your metal flake in here, right in this area here, and then just left this well, and just, even if you even had a line where you ended your flake, so at transition line, it'd be like custom paint, you know, or faded it, you know, back face tape this, and then fade your into here, and then when you're done with that, with the flake work, then you can take and you're going to lay up your blue clear, and you lay up your blue clear, you let that kick, and you yank your tape off, because you're going to have somewhat of an edge, but that edge you don't really have to worry about. And then you can gel coat. You're going to gel coat the whole boat anyway, and then you gel coat this whole area in here with just clear. And then you can put the gel coat clear over the whole boat, but it's going to double your material cost. So I'm just talking about doing just clear in the motor well to magnify this metallic. It'll just make it shiny again, but you got to have it sanded so it'll stick to it. Otherwise it'll delaminate, and gel coat delaminations are ugly. But God, that's just gorgeous where the sun don't shine. So yeah, it's some crazy metal flake, man. Okay, I'm done here. So next time you see this, that'll be gone, and that'll be gone.